you doing an intro? Hello, good evening, everyone. I am here at the Awareness Film Festival. I am Ruby Lopez, the moderator for today. We have some wonderful filmmakers here um, from joining us today. So I am based in New Jersey, and I'm going to turn it over to the filmmakers, and they are going to introduce themselves, their film, and where they're located. So why don't we start with Fitz?
Hey there, I am Fitz. I'm based in Los Angeles. My film is Walk Away. Thank you for watching it. And it was near and dear to me, and I'm really proud that I got it completed because it has a special message. So thank you for watching.
And now over to you, Naomi.
Yeah, hi. My name's Naomi Pasmanick. I use she, her pronouns. I am based here in San Francisco, so also in the West Coast. And my film is Olas de Recuerdo, or Memories of Salt in English, which is a 30-minute documentary about my family's story during the Spanish Civil War and their immigration to the United States. So yeah, thank you also for anyone that tuned in.
Great, thank you very much about that. And just so to start it off, for anybody who has not gotten a chance to see your film, and you, Naomi, had already mentioned a little bit about what it's about. Can you go into a little bit about the origin of this? This is about your family and their immigration, but there's also um, some interesting things that are also happening in the film that's very pertinent to present day. So can you tell us a little bit about how the origin story and how you're linking it to present day events for yourself?
Yeah, so documentary is really documenting the oral histories of my family in the moment that they were resisting kind of like fascism as it was taking a hold on Spanish society in the 30s. And as I was making the film, I was realizing that what they were living through and the struggles that they had as, workers and women and people that were kind of trying to organize for a better future are similar to the struggles that we're dealing with today in the face of our own rising militant right wing kind of energies that are taking hold of our own society today. So unfortunately, there's a lot of parallels, I would say, between, the Franco takeover of Spain and the resistance to that, and, the sort of like fascist currents that we're seeing today. So it was important for me to kind of make that connection in my film as well.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Fitz, for your film Walk Away, can you expand a little bit on what the theme of Walk Away is? Because this is also, quite um, an interesting way of telling the story because you combine it in creating the story with a music video and the choices a woman's making in an abusive relationship. So, can you expand a little bit about how that came about for you as well?
Yeah, the main theme is domestic violence, but it's also really taken from the purview of that decision. Finally making that decision, which is the hardest part of walking away. And everybody's got different stories when they're dealing with abuse, and there's all different kinds of abuse. And people are in crazy relationships sometimes for years. Sometimes people don't even know the physicality of it because it's hidden. I know people that were badly injured, but you couldn't see the injuries. They were, you know, uh, the person knew just how to hit them so you would never see their injuries, for instance. Anyway, I wanted to show how excruciatingly painful that decision is to make and to walk away. And again, there's all different kinds of stories that people have, but I really wanted to shine a light on how hard that decision is, how what a fulcrum that is for somebody's life, and how they can get stuck in it, and how scary it is when you're dealing with a monster, which there is a little bit of a monster in there. It's all set to music, which drives it, and there's not tons of backstory on purpose because again, I wanted it to be about that woman making that decision.
And I remember when I was watching it, that was such an interesting way to approach it because you said it's all about the decision. And as I was watching the music video and as the story progressed, you can see that, she is making that decision and where it, for her is that there's that moment. For you as a moment as a filmmaker, why a music video? Why a song? Why in this way of telling this story and this choice?
I wanted it to attract a lot of different people, frankly. It's not just for a woman making the decision, it's for all different kinds of people, all different ages. So, music, for me anyway, helps attract a lot of people. It's entertaining. I wanted it to be entertaining and driving and help drive the story musically. And again, it's not, you see them fighting in the car, but you don't know what they're fighting about because it doesn't matter, really. It's not about that story, really. It's about the theme that, the abuse, and it can be emotional, verbal, physical, it can be a lot of different abuses. And the music kind of forces you to actually watch and feel that decision. At least that was me as a filmmaker, the choices that I made on purpose.
Wonderful. Naomi, for your choices as a documentarian in this very personal story of yours, why did you choose to have it as a documentary? And how did you decide where to where to bring in your family and then when to bring in present day? Like, how did you marry the two? And when you were discovering the story, did you know ahead of time, or was it when you were deciding the footage you're finding, the information of the stories that your family was telling you?
Yeah, so I decided to make this a documentary because I realized that a lot of the elders, a lot of the people that held these important stories were older, and I really wanted to just document them and record them speaking. My grandmother, who's so dear to me. So that was important for me, just like the documentation itself. And originally, I kind of thought that I was gonna make like a very like PBS educational kind of film that was just like telling the story of the history. But as I was editing it, I realized that I felt very kind of like implicated, that it wasn't just about like telling a history. It was also about myself, like coming into my own understanding of my identity and kind of like why I care about social justice in the end, I think, really. And it's because I do have these really strong stories of my ancestors who really put a lot on the line and in some cases lost so much, even their lives, to struggle for what they believed in. And so it was kind of a slow process of like starting to like write a voiceover narration to go along with it. And I think at the time that I was editing as well, it was like 2023, 2024, and there was a lot of conversation about um, equating criticizing the actions of a extremist government in Israel towards the Palestinians, equating any critique of that with anti-Semitism. And as someone who's other half, I'm half Spanish, half Jewish, it was very important to me to also push back against that and being someone that can identify with their Jewish ancestry and also criticize and demand an end to that sort of violence by the Israeli state. So that's kind of also what tied the film to me, tied it together because, even though, especially at that time and still now, there can be a lot of pushback for speaking out against those types of issues. I got a lot of like strength and courage from my ancestors, just thinking like, well, what would they have done? They would have been speaking out against injustice. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. So, for both of you, this question is how did you approach the people who were in your film? You know, if it's for you, you have these two wonderful actors. How did you talk to them um, about how you wanted to see the relationship portrayed, how to make the decisions? Because you said like there is not a lot of backstory, you know, in their story fits. So how did you talk to your actors? How did you come to that understanding when there isn't a lot of backstory?
Yeah, it was through the auditions actually, the audition process, talking to them about wearing their emotions, and showing their emotions without a lot of dialogue. And Allison, as soon as I found her, I knew it. I knew that she could carry it. And I worked with her throughout several different auditions, to see her range. And each time she came in, she just nailed it, because it all those thinking moments leading up that she is leaving to try to get the viewer, going with her on her journey is really important. You don't really know what's going on in the beginning when she's going through the scrapbook, and I wanted the audience to go on a journey and be curious, like, what is she doing, what's going on here? And she was perfect. It wasn't too sad. All these emotions we worked on together. um, but again, she is just a brilliant actress as well, and she was the perfect one. Same thing with Tony. Oh, he's actually a comedian, but in my film, he's an explosive monster. And it's hard to find, somebody that can nail it quickly. My film's 7 minutes, right? It's packed with all these different emotions without a lot of dialogue for these guys to go through. And also, you're not going to hear their fight. So they have to be able to, chop it up, blow it up, together. And it was part directing, part cheerleading, part becoming a unit with them, because we're all in the car together, right? With a DP. And I think that that was really important. And all of our energy together worked. And I was just blessed to find that cast. Thank you.
Oh, they were wonderful. Like especially that fight scene in the car, because it's building up on there, and also in the bedroom. That
Hmm.
was quite like he was very scary in the bedroom.
He's a scary guy. I mean, he scared me so much that I like got nervous, like giggled nervous, like when we were shooting, because he was so intense and so great. And, I was blessed. So,
Wonderful. And Naomi, you said like, you know, a lot, especially the beginning part of your documentary, as we enter into your story, you were interviewing different family members. How did they feel being on camera, and how did you prep and talk to them about it? And, you know, were they nervous? Did you know what questions you wanted, or was it just more like organic and see where the conversation would go with your family members?
Yeah, I think that I knew that I wanted to make this film for many years before I actually was able to do it. So I had previously talk to a lot of these family members and like ask them questions about their childhood, their youth, asking a lot of questions about my great grandmother who and her brothers who were kind of like the central figures in this story. So I think they were kind of used to this by now. They were kind of like, okay, she really wants to. And I think they also were kind of excited to tell their story and have it be recorded. It was a very small crew. It was just me and my DP. So it was very chill. We interviewed them in their homes and in spaces that were comfortable. Um, I think yeah. So overall, they were actually really excited to share. Yeah.
Did they know what kind of questions you were going to ask them beforehand, or was it like you were exploring as you were talking with them, more exploratory?
Yeah, I think that I had told them that I was working on a documentary about mostly about my great grandmother. So they were expecting that I was going to be asking them about, the Spanish Civil War, what about before? before the Spanish Civil War, like what kind of like led to this moment of repression that they experienced. But I had previously written down the questions. I hadn't shared the questions with them. And in fact, one thing that I learned from this documentary that I wish maybe I would have done differently, was to be a little bit more open and exploratory because I think I was like, I need to ask these questions. And I wish I would have been like more um, loose with that. But it was my first documentary of this caliber and length. So, I love learning from those types of experiences. So I'll definitely like hold that lesson for the next one.
Well, with that said, what question were you thinking that you would have loved to explore more that you didn't get a chance to?
I'm not sure that I have it's not like one question that I missed. I think it's just the approach in general of maybe just letting the conversation be led maybe by the person that's being interviewed than by me, just maybe a different approach. But overall, I think the interviews were really great and very tender. And I have so much footage that I didn't use for this documentary. It's 30 minutes, but maybe one day I'll go back and make a feature or something because there's a lot in there in our conversations.
Also, for the follow up on that, you actually inserted yourself also in the story because you were also, end up being on camera and talking in first person. Was that something that you were always going to do, or you found that that was necessary because you had more to say for your own viewpoint as the story evolved?
Yeah, I felt that it was necessary. I wasn't planning on doing that. In fact, I really did not want to, but I found it necessary as kind of the link of why does this story matter now? Because I'm recounting a story from like I don't know how many years ago, from the 1930s, almost 100 years ago. So I felt like to kind of help link it to the present and to kind of my artistic voice, I ended up including myself as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And Fitz, I was wondering, as you were creating your music video and the story evolves, was there a lot of reiteration, or did you already know that this was the final story, or was there even more exploratory because of the two actors that you had?
No, I had it pretty mapped out. I had one day to shoot it. And I'm glad that I did actually have it like sort of mapped out to death, from my shots to the different emotions. I think the more exploratory was, I had not worked with these actors before, although we had, quite an audition process to get them. And then we had them read together and we had rehearsals and things like that. Um, but I really wanted to work with this DP, Jessica Lopez. She's amazing. And she's a great Steadicam op. And it was one of the things that attracted me, her Steadicam work. I had worked with her before. And the morning came, and there's all kinds of emotions, right? We're going to have an emotional day shooting this. We have one day to shoot it, all this great stuff. And the Steadicam broke. So I had to change all my shots around. So that was a dance that, you know, you have to adapt, right? Because that's what challenges you and everything and making your art. But I'm glad I was like rehearsed with my actors. I'm glad that I was so mapped out because I had to change it quickly, and that certainly helps, I guess, being prepared, um, if you can be
No,
for
that's like
emergencies.
that's the kind of like, your worst nightmare. Are you going to make your day? And in your case, you only had one day and you had originally wanted it as a steady cam, and then things had to change. And pivoting is so wonderful as a filmmaker to be able to do. With that said, what was the process of your pivot? Like, how did you like try to like save the day in terms of, because you have to think about it really quickly and still get all those key moments, key scenes and key shots that you wanted to portray. So, um, interestingly enough, like as you, how did you pivot?
Yeah, like I wanted to scream, to be honest. I wanted to cry, scream, all of it because I was so planned. Um, Divide and conquer. You're with a team and you've all signed up for that moment, that day, that project, whatever. And first we had to make sure with Jess that she was going to be okay. That she felt terrible, and we had to take care of Jess. And I had several producers with me on this, but one, Carmen Quiros, divide and conquer. So she started to try to find new equipment. But again, we have one day, limited time, daylight, all that kind of stuff, camera rigs too. So, and we limited people. But anyway, it was like taking care of the ship. And then I actually just like literally like pivoted on my heels and went inside and started reblocking all my shots with a different way where how I was going to shoot them and everything, because there was no motion, and it wasn't steady. Handheld wasn't going to do it. We didn't even have the gear to really do it that way. So I had to figure it out, just reblock um,
I would say you
and
did it
start
very
dreaming
successful.
very quickly.
I would say it was very successful. Like you would not have, I would not have noticed.
Thank you.
I'm both a producer and a post supervisor and an actor.
Yeah. Oh,
So all
wow.
of those things makes me go, wow. And you, you got, you got some beautiful shots
Thank you.
and you
Yeah.
put it together beautifully
Thank
so
you.
that you were basically trying to make a day with an unexpected issue, that's like
Yeah.
incredible. So it looks beautiful on that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naomi, so for you, was there anything unexpected that happened in your shoot, or like something not necessarily bad, it could also be unexpectedly good, or surprising when you were shooting with your family and when you decided to bring in what's going on in the present day as well?
Um, I'm trying to think about that. I guess what was most surprising for me was just some of the stories that came out during the interviews. I can also say that some of the archival footage that we found, that I found of my family, because there's some really amazing archival footage of them having like these parties in like the 60s in New York, or in Long Island. And I didn't know that these tapes existed at all. It was just an offhanded comment while we were at a party with family in Galicia, and I was talking about like, oh yeah, I mean, I wish I had footage of my great grandma, and they were like, oh, there's tons. Like we would always record at the parties, and it turns out that my uncle had digitized these 16 millimeter tapes a few years ago, and so he sent me the DVDs, and that was so amazing to be able to see these images. And there's images of like my mom as a little kid, and all of these family members having these gatherings that apparently Peregrina, my great grandmother, was like known for having parties and being kind of like a center of community building, for the Spanish immigrant community on Long Island. So yeah, that was really amazing to have to find through this project.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing your grandmother in her garden, and she's like waving. It's such a beautiful like image, especially when you had it at the end. It was very lovely on that. What about the images for present day? How did you feel and find that, and how did you link them in when you were looking? Were you looking for something specific at the time?
I think I was looking for images that reflected today's current events. So I did partner with a research assistant, who helped me source some of the archival footage that we're using currently. But it was important to me to portray um, protest movements that are going on right now, and also just kind of the civil unrest. It was not hard to find that. There's a lot of that going on. So, um, yeah, I mean, we sourced some like newsreels and also footage from community organizers that got some of these images, photographer friends of mine. Um, yeah, I think that that process was interesting in its own way too, to be working with old archives and then kind of like current archives and just taking a step back and looking at everything as kind of like living history. It definitely puts things into perspective as well, that, you know, we're in it, but we're definitely in a very specific time. And yeah, it felt good to be able to speak on that and kind of respond in my own way through a documentary film.
That's great. And so I'm going to be opening up to questions shortly, but I did want to, my last question to the both of you is, how has been the response of your film that you've been finding as you've been doing the film festival circuit for this one? Or I'm not sure if this is your beginning, if this is the beginning or end for you or on it, but so far, how is your audience response, Naomi?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm kind of on the end of my festival circuit. It played in over 12 festivals, so I'm very proud of that and it's been really great. Um, I think that the response has been very positive. Um, you know, people sometimes want to ask, like, well, what about the other side of the Civil War? Like, what about the other, you know, every coin has two sides and that's valid. And just not the, you know, I wanted to focus on the stories that have often been, you know, silenced in the case of the side that didn't win the Spanish Civil War, right? So that's kind of my response to that. But overall, it's been a really great experience and it's been well received. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Fitz, how about you? What's been going on with your experience for the festival circuit and the response to your music video?
We're towards the tail end, but gosh, it was amazing. Even from the very first, we were out in Love Wins in Long Island, Love Wins Film Festival, and gosh, people just started talking about their own experiences. And that's why I made it, to get people talking, all different kinds of people talking, because you might have your own abuse happening, you might know somebody, but it was to get people talking, and it gave me goosebumps to, during my Q&A, that people actually started like talking about their own experiences, and they were so grateful I made it. And I made it, to get people to talk or to think about their own lives, and that they're not alone in what a difficult decision that is. And so that was just such a magical part of making the film, and definitely a reason that drove me to make that subject and carry it all the way through. So yeah, it was great.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear, and that you're able to have those kind of conversations for the both of you, that people are talking and having an opinion, which I think, that is the best thing, is to open up discussions and make people aware. So I have a question that somebody's asking. So is there any info to share on the editing and post-production, and what is the role of music played in the cutting process? Um, I'm going to start with you, because you had the music video and there was that beautiful song.
Yeah, so thanks for asking that question. You know, this is my first song, so I wrote the lyrics to that, not the
Oh,
music, but the lyrics, and I made it on purpose before, we were rough cutting and things like that, but I knew it was going to drive the whole film and be a part of where we landed, and it needed to be beautiful and it needed to be powerful. Um, and as you can see, like when they're fighting, because there's not a lot of dialogue, right?
mhm.
Hardly any at all. And so that music is important. It becomes the driver, and there's different types of music, different speeds. The beginning, you're just learning about her journey, and it allows you to be curious. And then as she steps into more violence and everything else, there's drivers, there's the crazy driving scene, and that music's very driving. And then once she makes that decision, we open up to the theme song, Walk Away. And so my whole film was musically driven, of course. But it was really the words meant so much to me in that song, Walk Away, and the right vibe too, I think was really important to me on each one of those different clusters of music.
Well, I have a follow-up on that in terms of the editorial process. So, especially with how you were creating it with the music video. So you had like the song, and then you had a scene, as you said, a little bit of talking. But like, how was the cutting process in that? Like, how did you feel about when you were going to have that song come in?
Um, I knew it was going to dance around her finally making that decision in the car. She hasn't quite done it, and that the walkaway theme song starts to seep in parts of it. She hasn't made it quite yet, and it can't be too powerful because you don't know whether she's really going to go through with it or not. She's already like chickened out, and you know that by now that she's just sort of put up with him and keeps putting up with him and just not making that decision because you've seen enough of that. So it was really important as far as planning that out. And I don't know, I think it was just all magical how it came together with the different shots and sort of how I storyboarded it out to when we were going to bring that song in. I love Travis Jones was my editor and how we teased that song before she makes that decision because it was so critical. But I wanted the theme song already playing a little bit.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Naomi, you said that you edited your documentary. So, how was your process of editing your documentary, and um, how did you find also using music and scoring? Because you said this is also your first big documentary.
Yeah, yeah, editing was quite the process. It was challenging to just sit down and lock in for so many hours. But yeah, I mean, I just once I decided I like had to finish it, I kind of just really committed to editing it. I mean, this project did it was made over a span of 5 years because I think that the pressure of editing these family stories was very intense. And so I had to kind of like table it for a while and then pick it back up. But it was a fun process also. And in terms of the music, I really wanted to show a strong sense of the Galician Gallego identity, and utilized a lot of like Gallego folk music in as part of the score. And even though I edited the film by myself, I did work with an amazing sound designer to bring the sound to life. And they also helped compose some of the music and kind of like musical beats in the film. And that was really great.
So, in terms of like, the process that you took 5 years,
Mhm.
um, how did it, in those 5 years change? You must have been gone through so many different cuts. So,
Yeah.
and how did you get to that final cut then?
I think I think honestly giving it a rest was a really great thing for me because I also grew so much as an editor, as a filmmaker, as just kind of a person between, 2019 when I filmed everything and maybe 2022, 2023 when I, shot another round of material and then finally finished it. I also got a grant, which gave me a lot more confidence, I think, and that helped like energize me of like, okay, someone else believes in me too. Like we can do this and with the ability to pay people to, for example, with the sound design and coloring and all of those finalization items. Um, but yeah, I think I was just more mature and more capable by the time that I got to editing. And also that piece of maybe being ready to incorporate myself and my own voice into the project. Whereas maybe when I first shot it, I was like, I couldn't even imagine doing that. So Yeah, so it did change from what I had originally envisioned into what I made in the end.
That's wonderful. Is there anything for the both of you, like, final, like, we're going to be wrapping up shortly. So is there any final thoughts in terms of what you learned in doing this documentary for yourself, Naomi? It's like, that surprised you, that you loved, that you wish you could have done differently, but now for your next project, like, I will definitely do this.
I think that there's a lot of takeaways that I took from this project, and one of them was just believing in yourself and believing in your vision and kind of sticking to that, regardless of if you're getting that much outside support or whatever it is, doing it for you because I knew it in my heart that I really wanted to do this for myself and for my family. Um, and as I was finishing it and struggling with the edit and am I going to finish? I think I kind of did have the realization that just the how great it is to finish a project. And even if you're not 1000% like satisfied or you can always continue editing, I think there's something really beautiful in finalizing it and putting it out there and being okay with that because so many of us get bogged down by the perfectionism or the fear of being seen. So that's something that I definitely got from that, as well as the importance and knowing that, especially for us filmmakers, if we have any tools and we all do, even with our phones, like if you want to document something and you have access to your elders or a moment in time, you don't lose anything by going ahead and asking them those questions or filming that moment, because you never know how you might use it and how it could benefit you or your community in the future.
No, I totally disagree. I totally agree. I actually just do it to my 89-year-old mother all the time. And she's always going, "Why are you filming me?" I'm like, "Mom, please." Uh, so Fitz, for you, what about what is your takeaway, and like what surprised you, or what is like this journey? What would you like us to know, or your secret, like, secret thing that made you delighted that how this all ended up, or it's like, oh, I wish I had done this differently.
Um, I love the way it ended up. I'm proud of that song that I wrote. It's the first one that I've written where it's made the airwaves of any type. So that was super fun for me. I think what it taught me, which I had learned from my producing days, but as a director, right? Because you're you're it, right? And like when all the camera stuff broke, everybody's there. Allison, my actress, is there. Tony's there. Everybody's there, all the way, into the crew. They're all, in my case, donating most of their time for that one day. And if I had wallowed in it, I guess I could have blown maybe how I would have shot it, and it would have hurt Allison. It would have hurt Tony. It would have hurt all these people that showed up for me and for, the producers and everything else. And so it was a great lesson of sort of how to handle things, I guess, and an important one. And you learn that in producing, but when you're a director, you're wicked emotional, right? Because it's your baby. You're the artist, and I'm just glad I didn't fall apart, and I'm glad I kept going. And I was really, honestly, if you had forced an answer, I would have been like, man, this is not gonna freaking come out the way I want it. And I'm mad, like, but I'm just gonna try to figure it out and do the best I can. And I guess that's a big lesson to share, I guess. Because I had that huge opportunity of a day with great crew and great cast, obviously. So
No, that's very inspiring, especially for any first-time directors, because, like you said, anything can go wrong in the day, and it's also like how you step up, how you pivot, and also, like, keep in mind that there is always a way to get your shot, to get what you need. even if
Yeah.
it's not what you thought you were going to do.
And shit's gonna happen not only to first time, but I mean, I've directed a bunch of things and I haven't had something like that where it's really gonna change your entire day and
Right.
how like you're gonna create and how the you wanted it to look and everything else. Um, so I guess it can happen at any time, right? Too.
Absolutely. And I totally applaud how you took care of your actors with like all the different changes going on. And also especially your DP because you were looking out for both your talent and your crew. And I think that's an important thing for a filmmaker to always remember and realize. And I really appreciate that you did that
Yeah.
on there. So that's like really wonderful.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody's there for a reason, right?
exactly, exactly. We can know what this whole process, you cannot, this is not something we do alone.
Right. Yeah.
So
Total team. Can't do it.
exactly. I do have one last questions for your Q&A from the audience. How did you both get funding for these projects? Why don't you start, Fritz?
Um, I pulled a bunch of favors. Definitely pulled a bunch of favors and also swapped favors too. So I did like a web series, and that was one of my producers, and she helped produce in certain ways. Laura Fortina, Tino, and Carmen Quiros always, she's my diehard producer. We do all kinds of stuff together. So that was when I wanted to do it. That was the first people. Well, Carmen was the first person I asked. Jess Lopez, though, that Steadicam op was, we had lunch and she wanted to do a project. I wanted to do a project. That was the seed. But when I really knew that I'd have to pull a bunch of favors to do it, I went to Carmen. And fortunately, I have a Carmen, and Carmen's magical. Carmen can friggin' make almost not a Steadicam like instantly, but almost anything, happen. And she's well regarded. And it's, if you just have one or two of those people, it really can make a difference on a ship like that. Tiny ship, but good ship. So yeah, I funded it myself. And I'm not going to tell you all the things like where we got craft service, but it cost me money. I knew it was going to cost me money. Like paying the editor and paying all people something and food and things like that. But I put together a really small budget and we stuck to it pretty good.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. Naomi, you said you got a grant. Is there, besides a grant, how else did you fund this?
Yeah, so the production part of it was self-funded, and favor. I had a colleague that was a documentary filmmaker, and they were like, "Let me help you. I would love to shoot this for you. Let's do it. Just buy my ticket to Spain." And I was like, "You know what? All right, that works." So that was huge. That was a great help, of course, and then, the biggest help was the artist grant I got from the SF Arts Commission for $30,000. That was huge. It just really helped in the post-production process. Helped like pay myself a little bit too for all those hours I spent editing and researching and all that stuff. So yeah, that was amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So before we end up, wrapping up with you guys, and I hope, you had a wonderful time with us here at Awareness Film Festival. Why don't you is there any kind of social media that we can continue to follow you and your film? Where is this film going next? Or what are you guys both doing next? So Naomi, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So you can find, I'm going to share my website, has my contact information and a little bit more information about my work and my projects. So feel free to email me there. I'm also on Instagram at Naomi La Veleta. La Veleta. And so yeah, follow. I'd love to connect with you, Fitz. It's been so
Yeah,
great to
definitely.
hear from you. And I watched your film earlier today, so it's really
I
fun.
can't wait to see yours.
Yeah.
And
Um,
what are you up to next, Naomi?
yeah, so I'm actually working on a documentary right now about some artists, some local artists in San Francisco and their hyper local art project, roving art project. So we're in post-production for that now. So I'm excited to be able to hopefully, you know, get that project into the film festival circuit as well. And um, there might be a few more screenings of Olas de Recuerdo. And yeah, I'm just seeing that through and hoping to put it out on a some sort of streaming platform soon as well.
Well, good luck and congratulations for, such a wonderful documentary.
Thank you.
Fitz, what about you? What is your social media? How do we follow you? What's next for
Oh
this
yeah,
film and yourself?
I'm taking Naomi's lead, so I put it in there. I don't know. She did it better. Definitely did it better. Mine's not a live link, but anyway, that's my stuff. And what am I doing? I am doing some commercials. I actually was fortunate enough to work with Jesse Diggins, who's a gold medalist, who's going to be in the Olympics. So I just worked with a bunch of Olympic athletes, which was a blast. Um, and that's been great, fun work. That's allowed me to do other projects. For instance, I have, if I get it done, it'll be my third feature documentary, which I'm super excited about. And it is about a female first in the TV industry. I knew her during COVID. It was the tail end of her life. She lived to 101, and I hope that I can take her story out. I inherited a lot of her story, her tapes, and had her blessing, obviously, and shot her. And I was the last person to shoot her, which was great. So that's a passion project. I'm writing my first feature, which is a horror film that I have Ashley Bell attached. I'm really excited about that. I obviously have a long way to go with that, but the writing is there and it's ready. It's starting to go out. Obviously, Ashley's attached, so I feel good about the writing, and I just need to get it made somehow magically. And yeah, so staying busy, I guess. Trying
Oh,
to.
that is wonderful. I'm so excited for the both of you for your next endeavor. I'm so excited about the two films that you guys had here at the Awareness Film Festival. It's been such an amazing evening talking to the both of you. You've been both very inspiring, and I'm so glad I got to hear a little bit more about the journey of both of your projects. It's been really wonderful. I hope you had a wonderful evening here at the Awareness Film Festival. And, for everybody out there, please get a chance to see their film and follow these wonderful filmmakers because they're terrific. So,
And thank you, Ruby, for being a great host. Thank you, Awareness Fest. Also, it's been a blast in person and also this virtual screening. And thank you guys for watching and your questions. And congrats, Naomi.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Ruby. This was a really fun Q&A session and awareness festival. It's really great. And I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing to connect us filmmakers and with the audiences too. So yeah, thank you.
great. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Awareness Film Festival. I hope you continue to watch our Q&As with our filmmakers as well as watch the films online with the Awareness Film Festival. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.